All right, in section 1.4, we're ready to discuss operations on functions, and so we're going to talk about how to add, subtract, multiply, divide, and compose functions in this section. And one of the important aspects of our conversation is going to center around domain. And so I'm going to work a couple of problems here just as a reminder on how to find the domain of a function, because we're going to have that skill in order to be successful on this topic. And so remember, from section 1.2, we had 3 domain restrictions: a square root function, a reciprocal function or a denominator, and then the logarithmic function had the restrictions on there. And so for problem number 1 here, we have a square root function, and I recall that for square root functions, the radicand, which is the expression under the radical, has to be greater than or equal to 0. And so I'm going to set 2 minus x greater than or equal to 0 and then solve for x. And so this is going to give me 2 is greater than or equal to x, or maybe another way to write that would be x is less than or equal to 2. And so if you're going to write that in interval notation, which we want to do, we need all of the x's that are less than 2 or equal to 2. And so that would be negative infinity to 2, with a bracket to indicate that we're going to include 2 in our answer. Now in problem 2, we've got 2 different types of restrictions going on. We have a square root in the numerator, which means that I need to put x plus 7 greater than or equal to 0. That's my square root restriction, which means that x is going to be greater than or equal to negative 7. I also have a denominator, and so I need to set that denominator equal to 0 and solve in order to get the restrictions from the denominator. So this is going to give me 2 restrictions: x cannot equal to negative 5 and x cannot equal to 1. Now, when you write the domain here, it's helpful if you draw a number line to help you. So I know that I'm going to have all of the numbers that are greater than negative 7. I'm not going to have anything on this side of negative 7. It's not going to be a part of my domain. So really, if you wanted to, you could just say, all right, let's just erase that part of the number line. Another thing that you could do here, if you wanted to, is, and I think it's helpful to do this, is for x not equal to negative 5 and x not equal to 1, just go ahead and erase little portions of your number line, and then we can draw open circles there to represent negative 5 and an open circle to represent 1. Okay, so my domain is going to have 3 different intervals attached to it here. I'm going to have this first section here, which is going to include negative 7 until 5 not included. It's then going to include this middle section, which goes from, this should be a negative 5 by the way, negative 5 until positive 1, and then finally this last section, which will go from not including 1 to infinity. So make sure you're very comfortable with finding the domain of a function. If you need more help with that, I have more practice that I can give you, and so just reach out to me and ask for that.